10 years ago, an old idea and an old movement caught fire again, started renewing itself and taking off. It had been around a long time, but it really got going 10 years ago in a big new way. I'm talking about the movement we call cooperativism, the setting up of cooperatives to do all kinds of things, as well or better than competition can get them done. 10 years ago was also when we started Economic Update, the program that you're familiar with, that has those two basic goals: to critique the capitalist system we live under, on the premise that human beings have always made progress, and progress is something we can do now. Yes, we can do better than capitalism. And the second goal that animated us was to sketch out what that better might look like, and around the notion of worker co-ops, which is why we're talking about co-ops today. We've been extraordinarily honored by our success and growth these last 10 years, and so we've decided to mark the anniversary by looking back over what the last 10 years accomplished. And one of the major things it accomplished is this renewal of the movement to cooperate. You know, cooperatives have been important in many, many, many ventures the human race has undertaken. We cooperate in establishing our social systems. We cooperate in raising a barn for a family in our neighborhood, in helping out one another when a crisis happens. We cooperate often, and so the question has always been there, even if it's lurking in the background. Maybe we ought to produce goods and services by cooperating too. For example, slaves in slave economic systems, including in the American South, wanted often to escape not this or that particular master. That was often the case, of course, but to escape the system, to organize the production of goods and services with no masters and no slaves, with human beings cooperating as such, setting up co-ops rather than slave plantations, co-ops rather than slave workshops. You had the same kind of movement against feudalism. We don't want, these serfs said, lords, not just this or that lord, but the whole system of lords and serfs that defined feudalism. Instead, serfs ran away and formed a cooperative venture, farming. They didn't need lords and serfs. They could just be cooperators. And human beings often celebrated those who ran away from the system and lived cooperatively. Even the romantic tale of Robin Hood does exactly that. And capitalism, too, has had its people react, workers, employees, in relationship to employers, saying, it's not that I want to quit this particular employer for the great freedom of going to another employer. I don't want that system. I'd rather have co-ops where we get together as human beings, respecting each other on an equal level, and together producing the goods and services we need to live. Well, co-ops of all kinds have become very important, and particularly over the last 10 years. But some started much earlier. Co-ops producing electricity now service 56% of the land mass of the United States. Electric co-ops started in the New Deal, that's a century ago, and have been an important growing part of the U.S. economy. In 2018, the top 100 co-ops in the United States generated $222 billion of revenue. No minor matter co-ops. And there are all kinds of co-ops. co-ops of companies that get together to cooperate in selling, or that get together to cooperate in buying, or consumer co-ops where people get together and buy as a unit in their grocery store or in their hardware store, etc. And the cooperation saves money, and the cooperation builds a community. Americans understand that, and they've been doing more and more of it. Perhaps that's why we also have a recent spate of articles rediscovering this old idea. In May of 2021, Fortune magazine carried an article whose point was that co-ops of all kinds make an economy more resilient when it's hit with a crisis such as COVID-19. Wow, a whole nother dimension of the benefits of cooperation, either when it replaces or coexists with competition of various kinds. But here at Economic Update, and in our celebration of our 10th anniversary, we are, of course, particularly interested in one kind of co-op, the worker co-op. The co-op, not about buying and selling so much, but to cooperatively do the work. No bosses, no one bossed. We're all a community that gets together, one person, one vote, to decide democratically what we're going to produce, how we're going to produce, where we're going to produce, and what we're going to do with the output that we all together help to produce. This kind of worker co-op has been growing spectacularly. Here's one index of it. Back in 2011, 10 years ago, the city of New York became a pioneer by allocating the modest sum of $150,000 as money to help in the development and starting of worker co-ops. Fast forward to this year's budget for fiscal 2022. It's not $150,000. It's been so successful in getting all kinds of worker co-ops going in the New York area that this year the budget allocation from the city of New York is not $150,000 but $3.8 million. Recognition by the United States' largest city that worker co-ops can and should be and have proven themselves to be part of a vital, successful, growing economy. We don't have that many bright spots in our economy to look at. Worker co-ops is clearly one of them. And we at Economic Update are proud that we have done our part to advocate for them and to be a small chapter in this remarkable success story that is only at the very beginning. Economic Update and everything it has achieved is only possible because of you, our supportive audience. Help us grow another 10 years. And consider, if you will, joining our monthly donors. Monthly donors are particularly valuable because they allow us to plan as well as execute our work. If you are at all interested in being supportive, we of course thank you in advance. And you can find out all the ways of donating at our website, democracyatwork.info. Thank you for your attention. This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work.